Hello and welcome to the Uno 101 video. This is where I'm going to go over some basic knowledge checks slash counters to some of the stuff that Uno does. I'm trying to keep this first video fairly basic and simple, so like this is what he will do, this is the counter to it type stuff. I might do a bit more of a nuanced video later on in regards to like Uno pressure and things you can do and that kind of thing. But for now, we're going over the simple stuff, which I still see a lot of people getting caught out by, hence the video. So yeah, let's dive right into it. Okay, kicking things off, we'll be going over the SSBA. Looks like this giant laser with a hitbox that lasts for days. But the counterplay for this is to simply dodge, leaving you big plus afterwards. One thing I will say is you cannot roll it from distance. If you try to roll it, you will get hit by it. A little bit of damage, but obviously you don't want to get hit by anything. One exception to this rule is if you're close, you can roll to the other side of him. So, I don't know, if you want to get out of the corner or something and he like messes up his SSBA, you can do that. Also, if you're like right next to him as well, you can do your DPs, SSBAs, that kind of thing. But main bullet point takeaway from this is spot dodge the SSBA. Next up, we have the SBA, which is a little bit more complicated. You might say twice as complicated when you see what the actual response to it is. So instead of spot dodging once, we're going to spot dodge twice. There we go. To add to this, if you're a little further away, you can gain some space, you can spot dodge then roll. That's because the first hit of this super has a pretty low hitbox, so you cannot roll the first hit. As you see there. So unlike the SSBA, which you can roll, you cannot roll that one. Although you can spot dodge then roll if you're up close and you want to side switch, so you can still get the same benefits out of it. And obviously if you're a lot further away, the first hit's not going to reach you, so you don't really have to do anything about that. And you can roll slash spot dodge the second hit. Okay, next up we have a personal bugbear of mine when watching other people fight Uno is the 623U and the counterplay to that. So let's just see what it is right now. If we roll a 623U, as we can see there, Uno is in a punishable state, which is very rare for U skills in this game. So yeah, beyond the bullet point of please roll 623U, there's a little bit of a nuance to it. Say the Uno does it at like completely max range, and we do respond to it as soon as possible, we can get hit by it. But closer, we can just respond as soon as possible and be punishable. You can be a bit safe, wait for it to like come towards you, then roll. You'll still be like pretty plus there. I mean, even that's like, probably not for Siegfried, but other characters probably can punish at that point. But yeah, generally speaking, roll it. Do not let Uno get free pressure with this. Now I'll talk about Uno's U parry. So, common situation, we predict that Uno's going to parry, so we wait and block. But with U parry, he is +3 after you block the projectile, so it's still his turn at that point, and I've seen like a few times where the person tries to take their turn after blocking the parry and then the Uno just like fucks them up because of it. So how do I deal with the U parry? Well, there's two things we can do. First of all, we can spot the dodge the projectile. This leaves Uno in a recovery state for a lot longer, and as you can see there's +32, so even if we're far away we've got plenty of time to be able to run up and punish. Second thing, primarily if we're like really next to Uno, is we can just slam him like after like the first 17 frames I think it is of the U parry. This puts him in a counter hit state, which is obviously like very good for characters like Siegfried who can pump out a lot of damage on counter hit. So yeah, 2 points there. Either spot dodge the projectile or hit him after the parry window has finished. Going to be talking about the special parries that Uno has now, starting off with the L parry. As we can see just here, you can see that it's -6. So oftentimes that means your best punish is either a far light or a 2L. I'll actually hit him with a 2L, there 6 frames. If you're up close, you can 2L, far L oftentimes in order to confirm the punish. If we're a little bit further away, then 2L might whiff, or like you'll be too far for a far light afterwards. So I don't need to recommend that if you're up close. But yeah, that's the L parry. Next thing I'll talk about is the M parry. fairly simple when we're blocking up close. It is pretty punishable at this point. As you can see, it's -10. The issue comes when you are blocking it from like max distance or close to it. Here you can see that the Uno is only slightly negative at this point, so he is not actually punishable. A lot of times I'll see the Uno like parry into parry because they know people will try and like punish it every single time. But yeah, at like a medium distance it's still pretty punishable, slightly less punishable, -8 there for example as opposed to -10. Final thing I'll talk about with the M parry is if you spot dodge it, oftentimes you will be punishable yourself. That was a really light spot dodge to be fair, but oftentimes you'll see it, I'll go, oh crap, I've got to do that. And you'll only be like slightly positive there, or you might be negative. It depends when you actually do the spot dodge. Whereas if I like blocked it at a similar distance, the Uno would be punishable at that point. So blocking these is usually the way to go. Finally, I'm going to talk about the H parry. It's kind of like a combination between the L and the M parry. So very similar properties. Up close, it's going to be -10. Further away, you'll not see it very often, very further away, but it might just not even be punishable if you're far enough. One big bullet point for the H parry as opposed to the other ones is that we probably shouldn't spot dodge it. Because see there, as opposed to the move being -10, it's -2. Depending on timing of your spot dodge, it can even be positive for Uno, or they can even catch the recovery of your spot dodge as well, which is a bad time for all. So one final note on the parries as well is similar to the U parries, we can get big counter hits once the parry window is worn off. So this is basically true for all of the parries. But yeah, feel free to go for that if you're at checkpoint or just want to, you know, get the big counter hit punish or something like that. Next up, I'm going to be talking about Spiral Spear. This has a move with a few different properties, different things you can follow up on. But the most obvious thing that people keep getting tripped up by is if I hold the guard button here, for example. That follow up there where he rides his spear, kind of like a skateboard, surfboard or whatever, that's a low. So you need to be blocking that crouching, as can be seen there. So next up is the projectile follow-up from Spiral Spear. I think this is another big one that people mess up a lot of the time as well. So let's see in action here. So he's going to shoot the projectile. I'm going to roll it. Now look how minus I am after rolling that projectile. Like Uno can basically run up and like mess me up at this point. The only way that we're essentially like plus after it is if we kind of like roll it on a read, and even then like we're not getting a big punish or anything like that unless it's like super preemptive. Like let's see if we can actually do it here. +3. Alright, there. We can get a far light maybe, but that was like some super preemptive, we don't even know what follow-up he's going for type thing. Similar deal with all his projectiles, so like if he's doing it off 623H for example, same deal, we just change the recording here. -6. If we actually whiff the projectile before doing it, it's still like massively minus at that point, so we don't want to be rolling these most of the time. Especially if we're like, I don't know, if we're all the way out here with the projectile, like Uno can basically run up and do whatever he wants at that point. On to one of the last two specials I'll be talking about, will be basically when Uno does a big spin on the ground for this one. Big thing here is if he does the H spin, it's punishable. It is -7. Please stop treating this like it is plus, because Unos get away with so much with this. Fukuhara was so mad that like people would get away with this when in base game it was only like -2, that he actually made it punishable and people are still respecting it. So please stop doing that. It's a similar story with the other spins for here, for example, except not actually punishable. But still, it's not Uno's turn at that point, it is your turn, so please take it. Only exception being his U follow-up one. If we block this one is actually positive. But for the rest of them, stop respecting it, please. So the last point I want to make is in regards to Rakshasha, Big Driver 236X, whatever you want to call it. It's particularly around the M version of it and the H version of it. So first of all, the M version is this very slow one that leaves you significantly minus on block. So oftentimes like you'll see this and you're like, oh, I'll roll it, but you're still massively minus at that point. because the Uno recovers so quickly. Issue I see with this is like people will assume that they're plus after rolling it and like try and take their turn and get hit by something from Uno. So just please be aware that you'll be minus oftentimes when rolling that unless you're like being super preemptive. Finally, got H Beak Driver. This is also plus for Uno on block. The other ones L and U are not plus for Uno. Say if we somehow like react to it, it is a 20 frame startup, so it's a pretty difficult reaction. We are still minus after reacting to it. That's a more realistic one, -7 there for example. So same situation as the M version. You are probably negative after rolling the M version of Beak Driver or the H version of Beak Driver. Same deal for spot dodging it as well, you know. Roll and spot dodge have the same total frames, so either way you're going to be minus at that point. Please be aware of this.